Good morning. As we begin Lesson 6.3, we're going to build off of what we learned on our tasks yesterday regarding what happens when you add and subtract from the x's and y's in an equation for a parabola. We found yesterday that there's some translating that takes place. So our targets in this lesson are to use what's called the graph translation theorem to interpret equations and graphs, and then to be able to graph parabolas given their equations and interpret their graphs, identify some key characteristics in them. The graph translation theorem says, and we learned this through our tasks yesterday, that if you have a relation that shows the relationship between x and y, the following two processes will result in the same graph. If you replace x with x minus h and y with y minus k, what you will have is a translation, h units horizontally and k units vertically. Now the first thing I want you to notice is this notation, okay? H is all about horizontal movement. So if you subtract a positive number from h in the equation, that will result in movement to the right. Whereas if you subtract a negative number, which is like adding a number to x, that will result in a slide to the left that many places. So what you see in the equation, basically, you'll find that the movement will go in the opposite direction. So if it's x minus 2 in the equation, it will move 2 to the right on the coordinate plane. Okay? If it's x plus 2 in the equation, then it will move 2 to the left on the coordinate plane. The same thing can be said about the y. If you subtract a positive number from the y in the equation, that will result in movement in a positive direction on the coordinate plane. Whereas if you subtract a negative number from the y, which is like adding to y, that will result in movement downward. So again, it's the opposite of what you see in the equation. So say it's y minus 3. That would result in a movement 3 units up. Say it's y plus 3. That would result in 3 movements, or 3 units down on the coordinate plane. Now, the corollary to that graph translation theorem says that the image of a parabola in the form y equals ax squared under a translation t sub hk, same notation we just talked about on the previous slide, the parabola with the equation, what that will result in will be the parabola with the equation y minus k equals a times the quantity x minus h quantity squared. Now there are several features of these parabolas that we want to recognize. First, this form of the equation, y minus k equals a times the quantity x minus h quantity squared, is called vertex form. Okay? It's called vertex form because in the equation we can see what the coordinates of the vertex are. H and k are the coordinates of the vertex. Now the axis of symmetry is a line that goes right through the vertex of that parabola. So for instance, picture a parabola just sitting here at the origin. There's a symmetry line that goes right down the middle of that parabola and through the vertex. It's a vertical line. So it's in the form x equals a number. The number that x equals will always be the same as the x coordinate of the vertex because, of course, it's going through that point. So the axis of symmetry has an equation that will always equal x equals h. Now the vertex is a minimum vertex if a is a positive number. That means the parabola is opening up, so that means that it is the lowest point on the graph. On the other hand, the vertex is a maximum if a, the number in front of the x squared, is a negative number. That's because the parabola is opening down, which makes it the highest point on the parabola.